Hello, I'm Dr. Ray, and thank you for joining me on this video. In this video, we're going to delve into how to apply self-care for practitioners who are in mental health. Now, it's important to remember that if you are working with people who have challenges, you're trying to help them better their lives, then they're sharing their challenges, their victories, their failures, their emotions. And this means that you have to be that container for that. So if you're seeing one client after another, if you are going through your own challenges, then oftentimes the experiences from both, meaning yours and theirs, become enmeshed. Secondly, because it's just human nature, if you are to hear stories and never take a break and never take care of yourself, what can often happen is you start becoming triggered. It starts overlapping to the next client and the next client. And what I mean by that is, what I've noticed is that if you're not clear in your space and what's going on, and you show up the next day to work and you still have someone else's story there, there's a possible chance that you're not fully present and available for that new client. It's very important that you have a way to reset yourself so you can be fully available and also not bring your own stuff into the session. And I've never met anyone who that doesn't happen to. That it's a natural human experience to be empathetic, and sometimes stuff comes up that can make you sad and also happy. But it's important to make everything about the client and keep yourself separate by having those boundaries, but also holding space if your stuff comes up. So one of the best things that you can do to actually start off the day is making sure that you have a strong start in the morning. So what I recommend to practitioners is that you create some type of ritual that grounds you. I don't know what that means to you, but for me, that might mean taking a walk outside and lying up against a tree, taking a deep breath, for 2 to 5 minutes. Just really connect me to my own nature. For some people, that might mean getting a coffee and going out into their out to the balcony or on their couch and just unwinding. Now, the worst way to wake up would be getting on a computer, reading emails that do not really serve you, and other things that maybe elicit negativity or just take in your mind. In other words, it is so important that when you wake up in the morning that you are grounded and prepared and you're setting your intentions to have a good day, to be clear and not be taken with you yesterday or maybe problems you're having with a spouse or anything like that. And of course, that's not always the case. You cannot avoid that. But I guarantee if you start your mornings off and you set some type of ritual for yourself that connects you to your center, whether it's breath work, whether it's prayer or meditation or taking a walk with your dog, it's something that you do for yourself to connect you to this now moment. So that's very important. Another thing I also recommend is visualizing the best outcome for whatever client is shown up. Now, I do know if you've never had met the person, maybe it's hard to do. So I'll share it in 2 different ways. Imagine you actually know the client. What happens is if you were to show up with ideas that you want to do or help the person with, that might not be in alignment with where they are in that now moment. So that's actually a disservice to him or her. Secondly, if you're seeing that person in a negative way, then it's going to be much easier for you to be triggered in the session. And also, it's hard for you to kind of access new creative ways to work with a person if you kind of put them in a box and have your mind made up. It's very important to maybe be aware of certain tendencies, but also allow yourself to see the person in an open way, a new way, and also a happy way. It might not make sense to you, but just imagine this. If you were to visit someone that you thought you're going to have a bad time with, more likely you're going to have your guards up. If you're to go on a job interview and you were to think to yourself, this is not going to go too well, there's a good chance that how whomever's interviewing you is going to feel that experience. So you got to remember that the people you're working with, they feel you. They are intuitive. So it's very important that you show up for that person in that now moment, visualizing them in a better place. And when a better place might be just in that uncertainty, meaning that you see them smiling, you see them finding answers for themselves. You see them in a better place. And when you do that, and I've done this for a long time, I've seen over 5,000 clients, it makes the experience a lot better. If you've never seen the client before, then what you can do is actually do a check-in with yourself to be open to the next person with this openness. Very important, okay? Another thing to do that's really important is to create some type of clearing ritual. And I'm not trying to be esoteric or use anything that's religious here. What this is for is, for example, it might be when the client leaves for 5 minutes, you might do some exercises. For example, there's an exercise that I do, and if you're into Chinese medicine, where there's this smack that you do, you actually clap your hands, you just take a deep breath in, and you just shake off the experience. It actually works for me. It might sound ridiculous to you, but there might be something you do. Some people burn sage, but if you're in an office, you can't not do that. It might be just taking a walk or sitting there and taking a few deep breaths in, or listening to music for 3 minutes that makes you feel good. If you're going from one client to another client, the days become much longer, especially if it's a lot of emotional interactions. So when I see clients, I always give myself time to reset myself for the next person. And what ends up happening is I'm able to pace myself. It'd be no differently than you running a track, and then every time you get to whatever the bleachers are, and you actually grab a cup of water, and maybe you drink a cup of water to cool yourself off. You sit there for maybe 20 seconds and you run again. It's just, you need to pace yourself so you're able to remain grounded and fully present for your client. Another thing that's really helpful for practitioners in mental health is if you are judging that person, if you are having a strong emotion come up, there's a good chance that it's your stuff. Have a journal available, write it down, and at the end of the day, go through it, look at it. I mean, there's a possible chance that something's coming up in you. This is normal. It happens to the best of us in this field. So this is a great way to actually learn about yourself better and make you a more effective counselor. So if you hear, like in between clients, if something comes up, maybe not the first time, but the second time you're sensing that there's something bothering you, write it down. Now, what you do with that is, if you have your own way of working through that, great. However, create some type of support team, whether it might be working with a group where, I worked with some groups where every Friday they get together at 10 a.m. and then from 10 to 11 a.m. they kind of talk about some challenges that come up and they ask for suggestions. It's a great way for everyone to feel supported and just check in, okay? Or it could be where you have a coach, you have someone you can talk to, a supervisor, to move through this, so you don't feel alone. See, the reality is that when you're working with emotions, that a lot of things can get stirred up. And also that what I notice in my practice, what's interesting is that oftentimes what's going on in my life sometimes shows up with my clients. It's strange. Like, for example, if I were going through a breakup, that day I might see 3 people who are just going through a breakup. Or if my father is sick, a client shows up, they talk about their father being in a hospital. I don't know what that is. But I do know this, is that if that person starts sharing and I am getting emotional, then I'm not really present for that person. It might be about my story. So it's very important to check in with yourself and do these exercises. And I'll reiterate myself again here, and that is, again, is starting off your morning fresh, having some way to center yourself. Also, creating, like, with your mind, just whatever that means to you, the best outcome. Being open to change for this client. So, when they show up, you're fully present in that now moment. Also, having clearing rituals, whatever that might mean to you. Like, it might be just a break to the bathroom, or some fresh air outside, or whatever it means to you. The other one is write down the triggers, things that come up. And then the next one is to have a support team or a coach to help you move through this. So I hope you enjoy this. I know if you do this, you'll definitely see the interactions you have with your clients be much better, and I know that it will improve your life.